Let's get straight to the point. You're tired of just surviving. Tired of waiting for miracles, of piling up bills, of watching life slip through your fingers. And I tell you, with the conviction of someone who built an empire from nothing, if you do this today, poverty will end forever. It's not a trick. It's not an empty promise. It's the reality of someone who understands the invisible gears of wealth and shows you how to activate that machine within your own life. Stop looking for magic shortcuts. True transformation begins when you accept that poverty is not divine punishment, but the direct result of poorly adjusted systems. Mental, emotional, operational. As long as you continue to think like a modern slave, reacting to everything, waiting for ideal conditions, complaining about the government or your luck, nothing will change. I am Henry Ford, and I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to reprogram you. The first gear that needs to turn is inside your head. And I'm not talking about positive thinking or self-help nonsense that sells illusions in exchange for clicks. I'm talking about productive awareness. Do you want to get out of poverty? Then understand one thing. Poverty is the direct result of internal disorganization and operational passivity. Until you master your time, your mind, and your execution, you will remain poor even if you win the lottery. You need to wake up every day with a personal production plan, just like they did in the Ford factories. Every minute counted. Every part had to come out exactly the same as the one before. Why? Because standardization is the foundation of freedom. When you standardize, you scale. When you scale, you multiply. And when you multiply, poverty disappears. Not because you got rich overnight, but because you built a sustainable structure of abundance. Wake up and ask yourself, what am I producing today? What real value am I generating? What system am I improving? What process am I making more efficient? If the answer is nothing, then you already know why you're poor. Wealth is not a prize. It is a reflection of processes executed with brutal discipline. And it all starts with a habit, producing every day, without excuses, without drama, without negotiation. Do you think you're different? That your situation is special? That you have more difficulties than others? That you're older, younger, have less support, fewer resources? Stop. That's your ego trying to protect you from responsibility. And I tell you, with all cold industrial honesty, the sooner you kill that ego, the faster you'll see results. In my day, there was no internet. There was no easy financing. There was no accessible education. What there was sweat, repetition, trial and error, correction, and an insane obsession with making every piece, every task, every routine a little better than yesterday. That's how we created a system that lifted millions out of poverty. Not with charity, but with productivity. Today, you have everything at your fingertips. Courses, tools, models, connections. And yet you're still stuck? You still say it's hard. The hard part is being poor your whole life. The hard part is not being able to afford health insurance. The hard part is seeing your children repeat your story because you didn't have the courage to break the cycle. There's nothing more unfair than that. And the good news is, you can break it now, but there is a price. The price of abandoning the fragile and lazy version of yourself, of waking up earlier than everyone else, of saying no to distractions, of sacrificing immediate pleasure for consistent long-term growth. Poverty is a direct consequence of your inability to delay gratification. You want everything now, and that's why you don't build anything lasting. Want to get out of poverty? Then accept to work 10 times harder than normal for a period of time that no one can endure. Because most people stop halfway. Most give up while they are still tuning the engine. Most wait for an external push. And that is why most people remain poor. Now pay attention. The poverty I'm talking about here isn't just financial. It's poverty of vision, of action, of discipline. You may even make money, but if you remain disorganized, without structure, without standards, you will lose everything. Because without a system, wealth slips away like old oil on a factory floor. You need a personal production system, your own operating model. Start by defining 3 things: what your main focus is, what your delivery cycle is, and what your minimum acceptable standard of execution is. The rest will follow. What gets measured improves. What gets standardized scales. What gets repeated transforms. That's how I took illiterate people from the countryside and put them to work producing cars with pinpoint precision, because I gave them a simple, repeatable, controllable process. That's leadership. That's wealth building. That's what you need to do. Develop your own mental, emotional, and financial assembly line. And it all starts today, with what you have, in the condition you are in, without waiting for applause, likes, or validation. Produce, organize, standardize, and execute with military discipline. Repeat this every day. And then you will see with your own eyes. Poverty will disappear from your life like a defect corrected on the production line. If you understand the depth of this, write in the comments, "I am the machine that generates wealth." Not because it sounds cool, but because you will program yourself to stop being the mistake and start being the engine. Share this video with anyone who needs a wake-up call. And of course, subscribe now, because this productive mind factory will not stop. Now that you understand the starting point, the non-negotiable decision to produce with focus every day, let's move on to the next gear, dismantling the cycle of self-sabotage that keeps poverty running like an endless treadmill inside your mind. And to do that, you need to face reality head-on, as if you were inspecting a factory assembly line. Which part of your system is slack, failing, stalling, or simply unproductive? Most people are poor because they have built a routine that works perfectly to keep them poor. They wake up late, eat poorly, make decisions based on emotion, get distracted by nonsense, procrastinate on what really matters, and spend more than they earn. This is a system. It is a factory of scarcity. And like every factory, it delivers what it was designed to deliver: chronic misery with illusory peaks of relief. You need a complete re-engineering of your day. The way you think, act, consume, and deliver start in the morning. The way you start your day defines your productivity for the next few hours. In my factories, a 15-minute delay in starting operations compromised the entire day's production. And it's no different for you. If you start the day distracted, rushing, anxious, reacting to your cell phone or the TV, you've already lost control of your own process. Wake up early. Silence, pen and paper. Planning, sequential execution. Your mind is like a control center. If you don't take command first thing in the morning, chaos takes over. And chaos is an expert at creating scarcity. It's not about being perfect. I've made mistakes too. But I learned quickly. I corrected them even faster. Because I understood that time doesn't come back, and every day without production is a loss that accumulates like rust in the system. And what does rust do? It corrodes the structure from within until everything collapses. Your time is your most valuable asset. And mind you, I'm not saying this as a cliché. I'm speaking as an engineer speaks of a scarce raw material. Wasted time is lost production. And lost production is money, freedom, legacy, and future thrown away. While you watch silly videos or spend hours complaining, someone else is producing intensely and will take the space that could be yours. I don't want you to have a difficult life. I want you to have a life of productivity and freedom. But freedom only comes after standardization. I freed thousands of families from exhausting work because I created machines that did what they did better and faster. This allowed them to have time to live. But before that, there was a phase of adjustment, repetition, discipline, and process. You need to build your own machines. Automatic processes that save you energy and increase your results. A financial system that works without you having to think about it. A task execution system that frees up your time. A value generation model that works while you sleep. This is possible, but only if you stop living putting out fires and start living with prevention and growth systems. Look, what you are experiencing today is the result of what you have systematized in recent years. If you are always running, behind, in debt, frustrated, it is not bad luck. It is a poorly designed system. So stop complaining. Engineers don't cry over a poorly designed project. They redesign, adjust, test again, and execute with greater precision. That's how I got people out of the mud and to the top of industrial production. Not with speeches, but with models, with discipline, with example. And you need to do the same with your own life. Take on the role of chief engineer of your existence. Stop outsourcing control. Let's talk about money now. Because you can't get poverty out of your life if you continue to treat money as a mystical mystery or a family curse. Money is the result of value delivered consistently and systematically. It's that simple. Those who focus on serving better, faster, with fewer mistakes and higher quality naturally receive more. And those who complain, procrastinate, and live waiting for miracles naturally become poorer. There is no neutrality in this game. You are either getting richer or poorer every minute, every choice, every distraction. And the hard truth is, if you're not building a value factory inside your own mind, you're working for those who built it. Are you producing knowledge every day? Are you documenting your ideas? Are you organizing your time into productive blocks? Are you learning to sell, negotiate, present, communicate, serve better? Are you studying human behavior? Are you refining your delivery? Are you optimizing your processes? If not, then stop complaining about your situation. You are not in production. You are in maintenance. And no one prospers in a state of maintenance. Now tell me, what is your product? And don't give me the answer. I don't have a product. If you are a human being, you have a product. Your time, your knowledge, your execution, your presence. All of this can be packaged and sold. The problem is that you are selling poorly, delivering poorly, or simply hiding from your own responsibility to put yourself on the market as a valuable cog. And don't give me the, oh, but I'm shy. I'm not. A salesperson speech. Forget that. We are all salespeople. Even a child who cries for candy is negotiating. You just need to stop seeing sales as manipulation and start seeing it as delivering a solution. I sold cars because I understood that I was selling freedom, efficiency, mobility, time. What about you? What are you selling? What pain are you solving? What transformation are you delivering? Until you can answer that clearly, you'll continue to be just another number in the scarcity statistics. Reprogramming your mindset is the first step. The second is to standardize your habits into high-performance operating cycles. And the third is to scale this with simple, repeatable, and measurable processes. This is what breaks poverty. It's not blind faith, it's not luck, it's not charity. It's a system. Declare now in the comments, I am in production. And don't stop until you feel that your routine is as efficient as a Ford assembly line. And remember, subscribe to the channel to receive more practical guidance like this. Here, you don't get pretty phrases. You get mental projects that generate real freedom. You've made it this far, so something inside you has already realized. It's not about getting rich. It's about never being poor again. Because those who only want to get rich look for shortcuts. but those who want to destroy poverty for good build systems. And that's where the third gear comes in, the creation of a scalable and replicable production model with uncompromising discipline. Let me tell you with cold industrial logic, any result that depends on your willpower is doomed to failure. Because willpower fluctuates, discipline does not. And discipline only exists when there is a system behind it. A pattern. A strict routine that works even when you are tired, discouraged, or uninspired. In Ford's factories, cars didn't roll off the assembly line because the workers were inspired. They rolled off because there was a system, a sequence, a logic, an order. And poverty ceases to exist in your life the moment you create a system as efficient as this one for your daily execution. But be careful. Don't confuse complexity with efficiency. The secret to replication lies in the brutal simplicity of mental and operational gears. Everything that is complex is expensive, fragile, and limited. What is simple can be expanded on a large scale. And that is what separates those who work their entire lives from those who build freedom. The former execute without a system. The latter systematize execution. Want a practical example? Take an activity you do frequently, any activity, and ask yourself, how can I do this with fewer steps, fewer mistakes, less time, and higher quality? Once you have optimized it, write it down, document it, turn it into a short personal protocol. Congratulations, you have just created an invisible asset that brings you closer to freedom. Now multiply that process. Do it with your daily tasks, your financial decisions, your diet, your study routine, your business, if you have one. With each standardized repetition, you are building something that poor people never build: autonomy over their own time, energy, and results. While the poor spend their lives putting out fires, a builder of their own freedom is creating automatic fire hydrants so that no fire ever starts. That's what you need to do. Stop reacting and start anticipating. Anticipate problems. Anticipate decisions. Anticipate obstacles. And have systems in place to deal with all of this without despair. In my journey, nothing has been more powerful than understanding that standardization does not take away freedom. It delivers freedom because it frees your mind from the need to make decisions all the time. Everything you can turn into a process, turn into a process. Everything you can automate, automate. Everything you can delegate, delegate. Because that is exactly where wealth lies. In the systematic elimination of unnecessary decisions and wasted energy. Do you want to be rich? Then stop living like a tired craftsman and start living like a disciplined industrialist. You don't need more talent. You need more process. You don't need more motivation. You need more standards. And above all, you need a personal culture of no-nonsense execution. Let's talk about mass production. Most people think this concept only applies to factories. But I tell you, your life needs to be a mass production line of productive habits. Consistent decisions, value delivery, and consistent results. That's what will eliminate poverty from your story. A personal system that delivers results even when you're not having your best day. Think about it. If you disappeared for a week today, would your life continue to produce value? If the answer is no, then you are still a trapped worker, even if you own your own business. Because real freedom only exists when the system operates without depending on you. That's why I created models, manuals, instructions, standards, trained leaders, and built teams. So that Ford wasn't a man, it was a system. And you need to do the same. It doesn't matter if you're alone right now. Start small, but think like a system. Because every great empire started with a simple process executed with repetitive excellence. And here's another essential point: emotional control. You won't build anything solid while you're a slave to your emotions. Uncontrolled emotion is the enemy of the system. And where there is no system, there is chaos. And where there is chaos, there is scarcity. Emotion is a tool, not a command. You feel, record, understand, and then decide based on the plan, not on impulse. Poverty feeds on impulsiveness, on unplanned purchases, on hasty decisions, on comparing yourself to others, on the need for approval, on escaping pain. And all of this is driven by a mind without control. Your task now is to rebuild your internal operating system based on logic, productivity, and purpose, because it's not enough to eliminate financial poverty. You need to eliminate the mindset of emotional, operational, and strategic scarcity. Only then can you become a productive and free human being. And remember, true wealth is not about having a lot. It's about having control over what you produce, how you produce, when you produce, and for whom you produce. That's power. And power is only sustainable when it comes from systems that work without you. So make a commitment now. Choose one area of your life, just one, and create a microsystem. A simple routine with clear steps, a fixed schedule, and a minimum standard of quality. Do this for 7 days in a row. No exceptions, no excuses. And then tell me, do you still believe you are doomed to poverty? Write in the comments, my system is now up and running. Because now it's no longer about wanting, it's about operating. And if this content is reshaping your mind, share it with someone who urgently needs to escape chaos, and subscribe. Because here, every word is a plan. Every idea, a cog. Every video, a production line for your freedom. Now that you've started building your personal system, it's time to understand an industrial truth that few accept. No one prospers alone, but no one builds freedom if they depend emotionally on others. This means you need to develop the most strategic skill of your journey against poverty: leadership. Not leadership with speeches, but with productivity. Not leadership with titles, but with example. Not leadership with authority, but with results. Real. Leadership is the ability to organize resources, human, financial, temporal, to produce continuous value at scale. That's what separates the worker from the visionary. And if you want to eliminate poverty forever, you need to stop thinking like someone who just executes tasks and start thinking like someone who orchestrates value delivery systems. In my journey, I have discovered that the biggest mistake people make when they want to succeed is trying to do everything themselves. That is not strength, it is fear. Fear of trusting, of teaching, of delegating. And where there is fear, there is control. And where there is control, there is limitation. You will never scale your results if you are not able to train, trust, delegate, standardize, and measure. You need to develop a practical skill, turning ordinary people into cogs in an efficient system. This requires clarity, objective communication, process documentation, and above all, repetition. I didn't build an empire because I hired geniuses. I built it because I created a model where any ordinary person could become extraordinary through the well-trained repetition of simple tasks. That is the essence of wealth. Automating the delivery of value through systems led with excellence. And yes, this applies to your personal life as well. Your home can be chaos or a system. Your relationship can be a war or a coordinated operation. Your family can be a burden or a team. It all depends on how you lead by example, standard, and clarity. Now listen to this carefully. Poverty is highly contagious when leadership is absent. Where there is no direction, there is confusion. Where there is no purpose, there is waste. Where there is no standard, there is chaos. And chaos is the natural habitat of misery. So if you want to destroy poverty once and for all, start by leading with the question, how can I create order where there is confusion today? There is no point in working 16 hours a day if you don't know where you are going, what you are building, and who you are counting on. Blind productivity is poverty's cousin. And the lone worker who does not document, teach, or scale is just another bricklayer, while others build castles with less effort, more strategy, and better teams. You need allies. But allies don't fall from the sky. They are built, trained, developed with patience, feedback, repetition, and standards. If you are incapable of training people better than yourself, you will never be free. Because you will always have to do everything yourself. And here comes another point. Automation. Anything you repeat more than 3 times a week needs to be automated, whether with technology, processes, or people. You need to stop using your energy to repeat what a machine, software, or standardized process can do for you. Your mind needs to be free to think about expansion, not about putting out fires. That's why I created the assembly line. Because I realized that genius wasn't in creating a car. It was in creating a process that made millions of cars with the same standard and at a lower cost. And you need to apply that to your life right now. List all the tasks you do every day. Classify them. What can be eliminated? What can be delegated? What can be automated? What can only you do? Focus only on what only you can do with excellence. The rest needs to be systematized. That's the secret of those who truly prosper. They only do what no one else can do in their place. Everything else runs autonomously. What about you? Are you stuck in tasks that impoverish you, or are you scaling your presence as an industrial leader? The difference is in the model, in how you organize your routine, in how much you trust the system you have built, and above all, in how much you are able to make those around you grow with you, instead of just being dependent on you. Effective leadership is leadership that transforms presence into process. It's not me in the factory who solves everything. It's the system I've implemented. It's the standard I demand. It's the training I deliver. And you need to do the same with everything around you, from managing your home to your business model, if you have one. Now, pay attention to a truth that will either set you free or condemn you. If your system depends on your constant effort to function, it is a trap. You are a slave to an operation disguised as freedom. And many call this entrepreneurship, when in fact they have only exchanged one boss for an invisible prison. Don't accept this. Create processes. Train people. Document every step. Train until anyone can execute it with quality. This even applies to your diet, your finances, your habits. Document, standardize, test, adjust, and repeat. Because that's how you destroy poverty for good. With systems that work, leaders who inspire, processes that scale, and habits that stick. With or without motivation. If this content is shaking you up, then you're ready. Write in the comments, "I am the engineer of my freedom," and share it with someone who is still putting out fires. And don't forget to subscribe, because here, every episode is a lesson in engineering applied to your own existence. You may have a system. You may have discipline. You may even have results. But if you don't have purpose, you will sabotage everything at some point. Because human beings without direction sink their own ship, even when it is sailing smoothly. And here is the truth that no one tells you. The greatest engine of sustainable wealth creation is the alignment of purpose, knowledge, and faith. That is what eliminates poverty once and for all, from the inside out. I've seen thousands of men learn to operate machines perfectly, but return to poverty because they never understood why they were doing it. They never connected their work to their purpose. They never understood that they were building something bigger than just a car. And that's exactly what's happening to you right now. You may be working hard, trying, studying, but you haven't yet connected the execution to the purpose. And without purpose, Work becomes punishment. Discipline becomes prison. Effort becomes suffering. And that's when most people give up. Because they're doing everything right, but they don't know the deeper reason behind their own journey. And I tell you, with the harshness of someone who understands how things work, poverty isn't just a lack of money. It's a lack of direction. You need to define, with surgical clarity, why you are doing what you are doing. What legacy do you want to leave behind? What will change in your family, in your city, in your generation when you succeed? Because when your why is greater than your laziness, poverty loses its power to stop you. That's what drove me when everything seemed impossible. I wanted ordinary people to have access to what was once the privilege of the rich. I wanted to turn mobility into freedom. I wanted to see ordinary people building dignified, solid, productive lives. That fueled me on difficult days. It gave meaning to standardization, discipline, and endless adjustments. What about you? What are you doing with your gift? Are you hiding it? Are you sabotaging yourself for fear of judgment? Are you waiting for permission? Forget it. Poverty loves those who wait for the right moment to start. But there is no right moment. There is a purpose strong enough to push you forward even when everything seems stuck, and that's where faith comes in. And I'm not just talking about religious faith. I'm talking about practical faith, the kind that moves, that structures, that acts, that insists, that produces, that builds, that is not based on emotion, but on conviction. You need faith that is a lever, not a crutch. True faith doesn't wait. It executes. It builds. It calls into existence through disciplined action. And that's why so many have faith, but remain poor, because their faith is disconnected from practice. And faith without practice is an illusion. Do you believe you can prosper? Great. But do your schedule, your habits, your pattern of execution reflect that? It's no use declaring that you trust God if you don't honor His principles in your daily life. Order, work, excellence, love for your neighbor, responsibility, multiplication. God blesses what is in motion. Direction comes as you walk. So walk. What about knowledge? Knowledge is the material that forms your internal gears. It is what allows you to make better, faster, more accurate decisions. But be careful. Knowledge without application is just mental clutter. The world is full of people who know everything but do nothing. And that, my friend, is just another sophisticated form of misery. Apply it, test it, adjust it. It's that simple. If you've read a book, create an action plan based on it. If you've watched this video up to this point, write down 3 practical actions you will put into operation today. Because if you only consume content and don't turn it into a process, you're fooling yourself. You're distracting yourself with productive content. But distraction is still distraction. And now comes the union of the 3 engines: knowledge, faith, and purpose. When you combine the 3 into a single operating system, the result is unbreakable. You become unstoppable. Because even when you make mistakes, you learn. Even when you fall, you get up. Even when everything seems stuck, you know you are building something bigger, with a solid foundation, guided by something eternal. I've seen it happen with workers who arrived unable to read and left leading entire sectors. I've seen men cry with rage because they didn't understand the machines, and months later, proudly teaching others. Do you know what changed? Purpose, faith, knowledge, together, in practice, in routine, in sweat. What about you? Are you ready for this? Or are you still waiting for the right video, the right moment, the right miracle? Enough. Now is the time. And not because you're motivated, but because you're mature enough to understand that poverty only ends when the spirit, mind, and body work together like a well-oiled machine. Write in the comments now, My purpose is the engine of my wealth. And share this video with someone who still thinks poverty is destiny. Sign up. There are no shortcuts here. There is a system. There is truth. There is freedom engineering applied to your daily life. If you've made it this far with me, it's because you understand. Poverty is not a starting point. It's a daily choice to remain outside the system. But now, with the gears turning, you are about to activate the most powerful engine of all, the perpetuation of wealth. I'm not talking about saving money. I'm talking about building something that continues to produce value, even when you are no longer here. That is true freedom. It's when you stop fighting just for the present and start operating as an engineer of the future. You build processes that serve your children. You create standards that sustain your family. You leave behind recorded ideas, functional routines, operating systems. You become a legacy, and legacy is the opposite of poverty. Most people work to survive. Some work to win. Very few work to perpetuate. And I can tell you this, poverty only truly disappears when you commit to perpetuating productivity. When every action you take carries a pattern so solid that it can be taught, replicated, passed on. You see, a system is only truly efficient when it withstands time, absence, and change. That's why I built a company that continued to grow even after my death. Because it wasn't about me. It was about principles, processes, vision, discipline. And you need to do the same with your life, your work, your family. Now, tell me with brutal honesty, what are you building today that will stand the test of time? Can what you do every day be taught? Can it be documented? Can it be perpetuated? If not, then you're just putting out fires. You're living in survival mode, and that's the fuel of poverty. You need to start thinking in cycles, in scalability, in transmission. Your knowledge needs to become mentoring. Your process needs to become a method. Your day needs to become a model. That's what separates ordinary men from industrialists. The former live trapped in the present. The latter build bridges to the future. And here's something few people understand. Perpetuation requires simplicity. Anything that is too complex dies with its creator. But what is simple, replicable, accessible, survives. So never confuse sophistication with intelligence. True intelligence is taking something complex and turning it into a tool so simple that anyone can use it, repeat it, teach it. This is the mindset that eliminates poverty once and for all. You stop depending on your strength, your time, your presence, and you start depending on the structure you have built. This applies to everything. Your work, your finances, your relationships, your health, your faith. Everything can and should be structured, documented, taught. And now comes the most important point: responsibility. When you understand all this, there is no more room for victimhood. There is no more, it's the system's fault. I was born in the wrong place. I didn't have support. Now you know, poverty is a system. And every system can be broken with a new system, one that is more efficient, more productive, more intelligent. You are solely responsible for operating this new system. No one will do it for you. No one will force you. No one will insist. Because the discipline that transforms is silent, solitary, constant. You will wake up early while others sleep. You will study while others complain. You will execute while others post catchy phrases. And in the end, when everyone wonders how you made it, you will know you built a factory of freedom with sweat, system, and purpose. And when that factory is up and running, the real test comes. Are you prepared to teach? Because those who do not teach die with their knowledge. And what is not passed on is lost. And what is lost returns to create scarcity in the next generation. You have a mission to make everything clearer, simpler, more functional for those who come after you. It could be your child, your nephew, a friend, someone on the internet. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you transform your way of life into a plan that can be easily replicated. That is leadership. That is legacy. That is freedom. I did it. And that's why you're here listening to me. Because what I built was more than a car factory. It was a methodology of thinking, working, and living. And you can and should do the same with your reality. Now, here's the final push. Never again accept living as a victim. You are the engineer of your existence, the operator of your routine, the programmer of your mind, the leader of your journey, and the mentor of your legacy. Close your eyes now and imagine. How will your life be in a year if you apply everything you've learned here? Imagine your home, your routine, your earnings, your relationships. Now open your eyes and say, firmly, I am constantly under construction. Because that's what you are, a work in progress. A factory that never closes, a system that never fails, a cog in the wheel. And starting today, poverty will never have a place in that system. Because you understand, because you took action, because you executed. Write in the comments now, I build my legacy with system and truth. And share this video with anyone who needs a plan, not a speech. Subscribe now. Here, every episode is a lesson in engineering applied to freedom. And never forget, true wealth is not having a lot. It is producing value consistently, scalably, and perpetually. That is freedom. That is Henry Ford. That is you, operating as you should have from the beginning.